Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Ag 30 here on 95.7 FM, 1420 AM, The Warrior, sponsored by Fannin County Farm Bureau. We appreciate you tuning in to our show this week, and for our regular listeners, you know that during this show, during Ag 30, we do a market report each week on wheat, corn, soybean, cotton, and cattle. And unfortunately, this week, Dr. Blake Bennett, who brings that market report for us, is unable to be with us. However, we're still going to try to bring you a quality program today. And those of you that have been listening to the Texoma Cattleman know that we've been talking about cool season forages. And here on our time together on Ag 30, we're going to continue doing so for our time here on this program. We appreciate our sponsor that we mentioned just a little bit ago, Fannin County Farm Bureau, for sponsoring this program for us. And go out and pay them a visit out on 121. We appreciate their sponsorship. So on Texoma Cattleman, if you weren't able to listen to that show, just to kind of bring you up to speed real quick, there's a few objectives that we were trying to accomplish on our radio shows this week, and one is to talk about the forages that you have available, and we broke that down in between legumes and our cool season grass varieties. We're also going to, if we have time today, try to get into fertilizer considerations, and then also talk about some of those pests that we can deal with whenever we get into our cool and warm season forages. And if you listened last week on the Texoma Cattleman and the week before, we've been talking about armyworms here quite a bit, just trying to prepare people more or less. Not that we've had just overabundance of phone calls on it just yet. We have had several reports. Just want to make sure that you're armed and ready when it comes to dealing with those armyworms. We're going to get right into picking up where we left off on Texoma Cattleman. We ended right there with seed inoculation, talking about using an inoculant whenever we're putting these clovers in. Well, now I'd like to get into how do we plant these clovers. And again, here specifically, right now we're talking about our clovers, but you've got a few different options when it comes to putting them in. You have the option of planting with a no-till drill. Now, I would like to make mention that if you don't have one of these, it's okay. Don't worry, because we have a great agency here in Fannin County. It's our Natural Resources Conservation Service, but within them we have our Soil and Water Conservation District here in Fannin County. And our Soil and Water Conservation District has two no-till drills that you can rent. And so I encourage you to give them a call if something on our programs spike your interest and you do want to plant a cool season forage this year. I urge you to get on their list to be able to get one of those drills rented. And their phone number is 903-583-9513, and it's extension 3 whenever you contact their office. Give them a call. Mary Jane, who works the front desk there, she's the secretary for the Soil and Water Conservation District. She'll get you lined up with everything that you need as far as renting those drills. So if you're not familiar with no-till drill, what it's going to do is some may call it sod seeding, but we want to graze that existing warm season perennial forage that we're planting into. We want to graze that down to about 4 inches in height if we can whenever we go in and plant with this no-till drill. What it's going to do is it's going to cut a little divot there in the soil. It's going to drop that seed in, and then we'll kind of pack it in right after that, after it goes across it. And so we're just barely planting this seed just right underneath the soil surface, about 1/8 of an inch deep, no more than 1/4 of an inch deep is how deep that you want to get these clovers. But success rates of that are pretty high. So we do want that seed-to-soil contact with these clovers. It's very important. When we get into our wheat and oats here in a little bit, we're going to mention the same thing. And so we want you to consider a no-till drill. The other option that we have is planting with a broadcast seeder, and this is one that just simply slings that seed out onto the surface of the ground. Some people will just sling this out over a non-prepared ground. If you can go out there and do a light disc over your property and then come and broadcast seed, then that is a successful thing to do. If you do that, if you are able to come and either use a roller or something to kind of drag that ground back across so we can kind of get that seed covered up a little bit, that will be ideal. Seedbed prep and planting date. If you're going into a warm season, perennial pasture, like we just mentioned, lightly disc those pastures if you can. We said that most clovers only need to be about 1/4 of an inch deep. 1/8 of an inch is definitely fine for sure. But there is one, and it's winter pea. It's suggested and recommended to be 1/2 an inch to an inch. And so that's one thing to make note of if you are planting winter pea. Planting date on these is, as we mentioned back on Texoma Cattleman, that our planting date window starts at about mid-September, about September 15th. Now, one thing I'll caution you on, if we're not getting rain, if we don't have soil moisture, don't feel like you've got to go in there and plant on September the 15th, because we want to be able to go into a soil that's got some moisture there, because if we don't have moisture, we're not going to get germination. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If we've got soil moisture there, middle of September, by all means, if you've got your seed box, go right ahead and get that in, because the earlier we can get them in and get them up, the earlier we can utilize those as well. But our planting date's going to go until about the middle of November here for Fannin County, for North Texas area. Now, you think of last year. We'll go back to last year, and we know on September the 23rd, when the rain turned on, it didn't quit until we got to June of this year. And so sometimes we have to keep that in mind too. But last year, our temperatures were mild going up to December. And so last year we had the soil moisture. We had to pick and choose basically when we could get in on these places as well. I mean, it wasn't just we're gonna plant on September the 15th, or we're gonna plant on October the 10th, and you're ready to go with it. You all remember though the excessive rainfall that we were getting, so you kind of had to pick and choose whenever you was able to get in there and for lack of a better term, mud those full season forages in. And so, but last year, if we're getting some mild temperatures going throughout that fall and into the early part of winter, if we have that soil moisture to continue on, then we can extend that past November the 15th there. So if you're in questions on it, feel free to give us a call. That's what we're here for, to kind of examine things, to know kind of what's going on out there and what everybody else is doing at that point in time. So if you come November the 15th and you hadn't had a chance to plant yet and you're wanting to plant, give me a call and we can kind of discuss our situation. If we're getting rain, if we're not getting rain, if we're too cold or if we're too hot or where we're at, because we're in North Texas. We don't know what temperature, what the rainfall is going to be like come November the 15th. So if you have questions, let me know. You may be asking yourself about cost. So cost per acre, vetch is going to be right around $40 to the acre. Winter pea about $25 to $30 to the acre. Crimson clover is going to be about $30 to the acre. Ball is going to be about $15 to $20, and air leaf will be about $10 to $15 per acre. Those with higher seeding rates, you'll want to adjust your seeding rate a little bit if you go in and intermix those species, as we talked about in the Texoma Cattleman. Nitrogen fixation was one thing that we talked about in the Texoma Cattleman too. Some things that you can get by planting some of these legumes. Going to carry us into the cool season grasses and want to talk about them for a little bit here, but we're going to break them down into 5 different types. We have ryegrass, wheat, oats, rye, and triticale. Those are going to be our 5 types that are planted predominantly here in the North Texas and the Fannin County area. I want to start off by talking about ryegrass. So we break ryegrass up into two different types. We have tetraploid and we have diploid varieties. Tetraploid is going to be our newer cultivars that were developed within the last 2 decades, and what they have over the diploid is they have 4 sets of the same chromosomes, which makes up 28 chromosomes. The diploids are going to have 2 sets, which makes up 14 chromosomes. Your tetraploids are typically going to have a larger leaf. They're going to produce more forage biomass than the diploids. The one thing about ryegrass, though, is it's going to be the least cool tolerant cold tolerant, I'll say, of the cool season varieties. And another thing about ryegrass, if we do go in there and plant ryegrass on September the 15th or October the 1st, we all know how ryegrass works. It's going to come up, and it may get up there, best case scenario, up to about 4 or 5 inches high. When we get into them cooler temperatures, it's going to stall out and really stall out until about March the 15th. Now, we all know what happens when March the 15th rolls around. It's like, where did all this ryegrass come from? It starts going, and then when you get to April 15th, you're sitting there scratching your head, wondering what you're going to do with all that ryegrass that you have, and that even happens in a voluntarily situation. Whenever we get that volunteer ryegrass that comes up out there. And then you get to May and you start getting concerned about your warm season perennial forages, your Bermuda grass specifically, if it's going to be able to get up and green up and emerge as well. So ryegrass is one of those, you'll be rocking along and you won't have nothing, and then you got more grass than you know what to do with. So that's one thing, bear in mind on the ryegrass is have a plan of utilization when we get to that March 15th to May 15th time frame, because you're going to need it, I guarantee you that. Next one's going to be wheat. Wheat's one of our colder tolerant grasses that we have. It's highly utilized in this area. We have a lot of people that put in winter wheat. Works well for our area. One thing about these cool season grasses is the stocking rate capabilities that they do have. We can go in there and we can stock these quite some heavier than we can our warm season perennial forages. Kind of how I mean by that is our warm season perennial forages, not knowing a property whenever somebody just calls me and says, hey, I've got mixed grasses out on my place, not knowing if we're dealing with Bermuda grass, if we're dealing with native grasses. Usually I'm going to tell them about an animal unit to about 5 acres, me not knowing it. Now, of course, with intensive management strategies, we can get that down on our Bermuda grass varieties down to about an animal unit to every 3 acres potentially. Cool season forages, we can sometimes handle an animal unit on about a half an acre. They can tolerate much heavier stocking rates than that of our warm season perennials. So that's definitely one way we can utilize them for sure. And we do have stocker operators that do so in our area. Another thing with the winter wheat is the early grazing opportunities that you do have with it. We'll go in there and we'll get some wheat planted by September the 15th. Now, it's one of those, if we're managing for army worms, that we can go in a little bit earlier with. But if we can get that planted earlier, there may be times, if the weather's right, that we might be able to utilize that by about December. And that is our time of utilization from December to about April. Then it's going to go to playing off on us. Next one's going to be oats. Oats is very cold tolerant, widely used in our area. There's a lot of people that swear by oats in this county. Months of utilization is going to be December to April. It does have a broader leaf on it. One thing, now that we've talked about ryegrass, wheat, and oats, you've heard the times of utilization where people are very successful with these is when they mix them in together. We get early utilization with our wheat and our oats, and we get late utilization out of that ryegrass. So if you want to cut down on your hay costs, consider putting in some of these cool season forages. I want to move on now and talk about rye and triticale. Rye is very cold tolerant. It's not used a whole lot in our area, but it is an option for us. And then we have triticale. Triticale is going to be a cross between wheat and rye. Very cold tolerant. Up to this point, we haven't had a lot of use of it in our area. However, we know that wheat and rye work, so we know that this cross will work well. If you want to increase some of your grazing potential, there was a recent 3-year trial that was done in Vernon, and triticale yielded nearly a half a ton more dry matter per acre than wheat. So these are some of your cool season varieties that you can definitely consider.